Good evening and welcome to Be the Media Huntington. Tonight is Wednesday, February 6th, and I am Jenny Lee. And tonight I have with me Miss Dana.
Hi, guys.
And Miss Lisa.
Hi, everyone.
I like that you're wearing your breast cancer awareness shirt tonight, Lisa.
Oh, thanks.
So fun. So tonight we have some really good topics for you. We were going to discuss some things that happened at the school board meeting in Huntington because it's pertinent to the gang issue that we have been covering, as well as talking about Governor Cuomo's recent budget announcements. So I'm pretty sure we're going to cover a lot of ground on this because there definitely is a lot of ground to cover on it. So on Monday, February 4th, I went to the Huntington School Board meeting. And I was able to hear the first batch of public commentary on my own, but I had to leave and I left during the middle of the budget process before the second public commentary. So it wasn't until I was reading an article on the Huntington Now that I was alerted to go back and listen to the second public commentary. And I want everyone to know, I'm going to run through a brief breakdown so that we can talk about the topic really quick. But after this show tonight, we're going to put up a Facebook live feed and live feed the second public commentary of that meeting, because you really need to hear the passion and honestly, the tone of the people who are not only speaking at the podium, but the people who are retorting from the back. So we'll be putting that up after. So basically, it was the second public commentary. One of the first speakers up, his name was James Matarese, and he spoke basically from the same place that we've all been saying about the SRO program, you needing safety in the school, and that some people are following policies that really don't look if they're benefiting off of having students that you're representing in the district. He got into the whole lawyer issue. And then Josh Dubrow, which some people in our community may know from local Facebook pages. He's that March for Your Life dad guy that's been all over. But he starts out by saying, now you're going to get it from the other side. And it was interesting how Pam Robinson at Huntington Now decided to cover this in her article, because she decided to cover this as a spat between Josh Dubrow and Superintendent Plansky. And that's really not how it went down if you listen to the whole thing. And that's why later I want to bring it to everybody as the whole thing, instead of one woman's opinion who happens to run a publication called Huntington Now.
But what did he mean exactly when he said you're going to hear the other side? What did that mean?
Everybody, so you can hear, tone of voice says a lot.
Right.
When you take it to something sanitary at paper, it's usually a lot easier to read. But when you hear the person who's actually speaking it, you hear the tone and the passion behind it, and you get a better feel of who's being aggressive or who's not being aggressive and who just really sounds more genuine. But that's how we started it off. And, you know, listening to it, I felt like he was attacking our school board. I felt that they were being attacked. And I felt—
Well, he does have a position of attacking those who don't agree with him and don't have the same.
I know. And I really appreciated the people who stood up for Officer Drew, because the way that he responded and was representing Officer Drew, you would think that like Officer Drew for the last 15 years was just every day shaking down a student and throwing him over a wall. Like it was very combative.
What was he saying?
Well, so I'm going to cover, I love you so much. We're going to do a live feed after we're done covering it on our show. But I know that there are a lot of conflicts of interest. And, you know, the Huntington Now didn't even cover any of James Matarese, what he had said. And he had touched on the conflict of interest in regards to being an attorney who's representing any student in our school. And I thought that that was compelling because I know that there is a New York state law in reference to that through the state board, right, Dana?
Yeah, there's a yeah, it's definitely a conflict of interest according to New York State Board of Education for one of the board members of a school district to be representing a student, whether it be pro bono or if he's collecting wages or fees, because you would it's biased. This is somebody who's paying you,
Right.
So I wasn't surprised, but what does surprise me is why on earth hasn't the rest of the board got a clue? Because I know there's some attorneys on there, and why haven't they said anything? I mean, if somebody came up in a crowd and said, "Well, I think we should expunge all suspensions that dealt with the SR7," what?
I know.
Immediately I would have said that's something we should discuss behind closed doors or whatever. That's not something because you come off right there being biased in front of everyone and no one said anything.
Yeah.
What also caught my attention was when I was reading the article, and the article quoted Xavier saying he didn't even know Alex. I would really like to know if that's true and compare that with the New York Times article, because I think that's a lie. And I'd really like to hear.
Whether he didn't, that may be his out on being able to be held accountable for the students he actually is representing. He may be able to say, well, I didn't, and it was only one student now that the cat's out of the bag, right? It was only one student once. It wasn't Alex and it was pro bono. No. How do we know? How do we know?
We don't know.
And you've given the appearance of impropriety at this point, and that's part of the ethics. There's a lot of conflicts of it. Not only is there a conflict of interest for the board law that you were speaking of, Dina, but there's also ethics laws that are being broken here in regards to that. So it's unfortunate that more parents aren't going up and speaking on the public commentary. By the time I had left, the first part was really just like the Josh Dubrows of the world who want us to have, and it's mind-boggling to me, they don't want the police in the school, and then they're going to yell at the people who get up and say, but we need safety.
But he's been there for 15 years, and all of a sudden these people,
now
these jobs of town have a problem. Why?
He was such a tremendous loss to our district.
So insane.
Really was. All right. So I'm going to run that one live later when we get off. So we can't go overtime because then I end up staying up so late and then I get lost in newspapers and stuff online and reading. All right. So we're going to jump into, because I know this is going to cover so much ground. So we're just going to jump right into it. Governor Cuomo's budget saw a $2.3 billion drop in state revenue. $2.3 billion in state revenue. The top 1%, how many people live in the state of New York? Let me get us that number. I want to be accurate with this.
I'm so disappointed in my vote for Cuomo. I
didn't vote.
Oh my God.
I don't even know what to say. I just feel like I wasted that vote.
So, now that I know the actual number, it's astounding to me. According to Mr. Google, 19.85 million people live in New York. And I remember doing the numbers a while ago, and New York City is a huge chunk of that number. But how many people do you think out of 19.35 million, how many do you think is the top 1%? How many people do you think that represents? Because they talk about the top 1% and taxing the hell out of them all the time. So who are they? The top 1% people are there, 93,000 people out of that many million, out of almost 20 million people. Only the top 1% is only 93,000 people. So wait, it gets better.
Wow.
The top 1%, they pay half the taxes in New York. The top 5%, because let's bring it down a little bit more, they pay 63%. And the top 10% pay almost 75% of the taxes in New York. So when you lose your people who can actually afford to move, that's where you're losing all your billions of dollars because of what you're doing to the rich people. They're leaving, and they're leaving us holding the bag. Because the only people that are starting to see the deductions are people like us. People will start losing their grants. People will start losing their services. People, go ahead, interject.
Let's talk about grants and services. I have 3 people in my immediate family that are currently in school. I have my son, who's a pre-med student, but he's in another state. I have my daughter who was in Utica, and she is a dual major. And I have myself, who is currently getting my master's. And I woke up to a very distraught call from my daughter telling me that she couldn't get some of her books, or, whatever the case may be. So I called the school to get the information, and I was told that a portion of our TAP, which, you get when you have financial aid, was snatched away. So when I called in to ask what the hell is going on, I was told that, oh, this is new policy. You have to do X, Y, and Z. And my issue is you want me, and this is the man who I voted for, you want me to be okay with you giving free education to undocumented individuals, but you want to question me, a citizen, a natural born citizen who has paid numerous times, who all of my family members have paid countless of dollars into a system that you won't even grant for us to have tuition reimbursement, but you want to give it to them for free. And not only don't I have to give them my information, I have to give them everybody in my family's information, which is all of my children, including myself. Why the hell do I need to do all that? What if I didn't have a social security number? What if I said that I just came here? Would I get free care? Would I get free tuition? I was very annoyed because they snatched away the TAP and didn't tell us. And now I have to prove to get the TAP back. I think that's awful.
Sorry. I even say about something like that. I don't even understand.
I'm not getting a master's to go, study in Japan. I'm getting a master's so we'll get a different type of employment, and I'll put more back into my community. But not if you're going to keep fighting me to everything.
You have to prove that don't you have to? Didn't you say that you have to prove that your children are your children?
I have to prove that all 5 of my children are actually my dependents. What? I've my son is going to private school all of his high school education. My daughter has done, numerous things. All of my children have been my dependents for forever. It's not new knowledge. But it was snatched away. No warning, no call, no nothing.
Well, no, and that's what's going to happen. They're just going to start slashing, and have been, because they see what's coming. I'm going to go through those charts that I pulled up for us earlier. Okay. Something into our page. Oh, we have a page where we put stuff for the show, and I could never find it.
That's always the case.
Always when I need it, though. I think the statistics are pretty overwhelming, and if anybody wants us to do here we go, link anything for you, we can, but I took these stills from Cuomo's address that he had this week, so you can see them. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to clicking it.
Oh,
okay, so you have, no, gone?
Oh,
uh-oh, sorry, that was bad. We called Lisa had potty mouth. That's okay. Warning, 30% tax increase, state revenue crisis, New York State housing crisis. These are the states with the large revenue declines. New York, 50%. We've lost 50%. New Jersey, 35. Connecticut, 55. California, 24. Massachusetts, 50. These are all blue states. 52 of New York's 62 counties have an average SALT tax above $10,000. So Cuomo, let me frame this for you. Cuomo basically had a news conference to say that it was Trump's tax hike that is doing this to New York, and this is why. So he's focusing on the SALT, but he really gives us some great percentages to work with from this. So 52 of 62 counties have an average SALT of above $10,000, which is insane. So this is the property tax on your house. The average New York taxpayer has SALT deductions that are more than twice the $10,000 cap. New Yorkers pay some of the highest property taxes in the nation. The median property tax is 2.5 times the median state income tax liability. New York has the largest percentage of taxpayers getting a tax hike of any state. He goes over the fragile economy. This is where I got the numbers from, okay? New York's tax code is highly progressive. Thanks for letting us know what's causing us the problem. We have the second highest state local millionaires tax in the country. Again, you're taxing the rich. The top 1% of taxpayer accounts for nearly half, 46% of state income tax liability. More than 95% of the tax increase from SALT falls on the top, 20% of the taxpayers. These taxpayers pay over 87% of New York income taxes. He goes through it here. These are the number of people. Remember the number I gave you was 19 million, okay? So the top 1% is 93,272. The top 5% is 466,000. So 500,000. And the top 10%, 932,000. You can average that one out to 1 million for argument's sake. So it goes into, again, the percentage of shares that they pay. So, and he goes further to make the argument why this is his fault without realizing what he's doing. Before SALT, a high-income taxpayer in New York City paid a combined city-state federal rate of 45%. Because of SALT, their rate increased by nearly 12%. A taxpayer in Florida would see no increase or decrease. Florida has no estate tax. Well, thank you for letting us know where it's stemming from. Taxpayers are adjusting in response to SALT. Anecdotal evidence suggests that high-income taxpayers are considering changing their residence and that financial industry firms are looking at real estate outside of New York. By shrinking the tax base, SALT will impact funding for many programs that New Yorkers depend on, including school aid, Medicaid, and a range of services, including what Dana was describing before. It's already started. New York contributes more to the federal government than any other state. Yay, we're number one in something. Net $35.6 billion. We are the number one donor state to the federal government.
Oh my God.
I don't donate shit. They take it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's stolen. Taxation is theft, people. Uncertainty abounds. IRS is attempting to remove deductibility of charitable deductions enacted last year. Final regulations still pending. New York's lawsuit against the Tax Cuts Job Act is ongoing. Federal government shutdown went into tax season for the first time ever. IRS was closed and the annual temporary workforce was not working. A backlog of taxpayer inquiries about the Tax Cut Jobs Act persists. Another shutdown is possible. Many provisions expire in 2025 and taxes will increase further for middle classers in New York. Cuomo can make this permanent. He could make this permanent by enacting this here, but he's choosing not to. Federal dysfunction continues, as does the Trump administration's assault on New York programs, creating even more pressure on the state budget. So it's interesting because I did a crash course before we came on to kind of remind myself where we were with this. There was on News 12 Long Island, take you to this. I just want to fit this in here and then we'll throw it up there for discussion. Okay. Right here. We'll go where this is. Marty Cantor. Do you know who he is?
No.
He's on the TV a lot, like News 12 and stuff. Well, of course, this is News 12. He's an economic analyst that they go to a lot. And he's quoted saying here, the problems here are caused by the governor and his administration, says Long Island-based economic analysis Marty Cantor. It's too expensive to live on Long Island and in New York State. Taxes are too high, people are leaving, and it has nothing to do with Trump. So when he blames, I always go through this with people that I know. When you're put in a position of not accepting a level of accountability, you get to blame other things. It means you don't have to change anything you're doing because it's somebody else's fault. So it's not New York's fault. It's Trump's fault. Therefore, New York doesn't need to fix it. And I call bullshit on that. We need to fix our problems.
We were paying high taxes way before Trump was the president, FYI.
Right.
And we've always had the shit end of the stick, excuse my language, before Trump, FYI. Like, even though how much of the budget goes to school funding, but only 2% of whatever that money is allocated actually comes to us here on Long Island. The majority of it goes to the state. So to me, it's like, that's why I can't get into certain conversations. We've always paid the highest tax. We've always had the highest everything. This is way before him.
All SALT did was limit your what you can deduct on your property taxes. Okay, so that's why rich people are leaving, because they're the ones that what is the average SALT tax in New York? $22,169. I don't know about you, but you don't pay anything close to that in property taxes. But all it did is said, New York, you can only deduct up to $10,000 in property taxes. Everything else you can't deduct. So in effect, what Cuomo's saying is happening, that we're the donor state for everybody else. The red states have been making up our shortcoming before this, because before that, if I had $22,169 in property taxes, I used to be able to deduct the whole thing. And that was being taken or made up by somebody else who wasn't having that. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Because I know sometimes it's hard to explain the numbers.
No, it makes sense. And it's just, it just, you can't even have a decent conversation anymore. Anything that has, and I'm not a Trump fan, but I'm sick of hearing his name. Like, we cannot blame him for everything. We can't.
Call him the Orange Man.
We cannot, but we can't blame him. It's like, oh, he did this, he did that. He's responsible for a number of things, but we've been paying high taxes. We've been getting the short end of the stick. So let's not be unrealistic here. And Cuomo has just turned out to be the biggest, in my opinion, for people who voted for him, like myself, for the right reasons. He's turning out to be the biggest FU that we've had so far, in my opinion, because he's going crazy. We got a problem here. We got a real problem here with public safety, amongst other things. And you want to talk to me and taxes? You want to talk to me about legalizing reefer? I don't give two shits about that.
Look at New York. Look at the streets of New York. Look at the conditions of our infrastructure. Besides the big bridge that he built and named after his daddy, what's the most recent, newest infrastructure what have you been doing with the money you were collecting before Trump put in that $10,000 cap? What were you doing with all that $2.5 billion that you're upset about now? What were you doing with that every year before? Because you
built the bridge with his daddy's name.
How much was that bridge?
I don't know. How many billions was that? I don't know.
It was all the billions you just said. That's what he's doing with the money. He wants to build bridges. He wants to, close those gaps. So he did it.
He's going to put his name on the next one. Jackass.
And then he gets up there and talks about how Trump's wall is just about his ego. That kills me. You named the only infrastructure improvement that you did in New York for your dad so that your name could be on it too, because that's your name too.
I just have a problem with, his. He's just very disappointing.
Look how fast it's going now that they have a Democrat Senate and a Democrat, right? It's all three houses now in New York State are now controlled by Democrats. That changed this last election cycle. It used to have a Republican strong wall, which it wasn't that strong, but at least it was there. Now it's gone. No matter what they want to do, they're putting it through. You saw the nonsense with the guns. They want your social media password. They want your social media password to look at your social media to, I guess, figure out if you
for the past 5 years, right? 3 to 5
years. Yeah, I mean, seriously, you're gonna find that a lot of people come at me. What do you want to look at? What do you want to see?
But where's my right to my privacy?
Yeah.
Where's my right to have my own social media, my personal platform? I get it that we need to have more gun control so that firearms don't end up in the wrong hands of the wrong people. That I get. But I don't get you trying to invade my privacy. If you run my name, you run my fingerprints. I've never been involved with anything. I've never been arrested. I've never even, there's certain things that just I've never done. Why do you now need to go into my Facebook or my Instagram? Do you want to see pictures of my kids? What are you trying to do?
Tina, I don't know how plugged in you were this week. But
not plugged in because school just started back. But, I try to chime in every now and then.
Okay, because you just brought up, you understand we need more gun control.
Right.
In New York. I would say that we're one of the most highest regulated states, right? I want to show you something because maybe you missed this week. God, I hope this is the right screen. Ooh. Okay, do you see the thing here?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Were you familiar with what happened here? I hate this commercial. I'm not sitting through this. ICE confirms MS-13 gang member arrested in subway shooting is documented.
This
was Wednesday. This was Wednesday.
Yep.
Today.
I wasn't plugged in, but my dad, who is a retired officer, couldn't wait till I came home to tell me about it. And I was like, what?
Broad daylight.
And then you see him coming down the step, and my dad says, we've lost all sense of law and order when someone feels that it's okay to go on a New York City subway, which is always jam-packed, open fire to hope to get the person that they want to hit. We've lost all sense of control.
So this person is MS-13. This person is undocumented, and this person has a gun. I am not allowed. I am a legal citizen. Every time they pass a law, it makes it more and more difficult for people like me to protect myself from the people that you're freely allowing in this country and that you are encouraging to come here with free school and free health care. And all you do, this obviously undocumented MS-13 had a gun. Tell me again how the gun laws are working, because none of the laws are being enforced. But damn straight, you pull me over because my tail light's out. And I'll get a ticket.
And have to pay it, or you'll suspend my daggone license.
Yeah, and if I don't pay it, after you said you're going to report it to my credit, and you're not going to tell me about it until I need money, and I have to take out a home equity, or I want to sit, and now it's piled up all these fees for years that you didn't tell me about. And so the $10 ticket is now a $2,000 ticket. I've seen that happen.
Or how about the fact that now they're bringing the boot and release here to Suffolk County?
Boot and release.
Where they're going to be able to boot people's car. What the heck?
You can't catch and release, but you can boot and release your car.
Well, I wonder why, with I'm going to bring up his name again, with all these Joshes in town, where are they? Talk about a March for Life. Where were they marching after the gang stat? Where are they marching after the guy was shot with probably an illegal gun on an illegal man?
What you said, Lisa?
In
Say
the
it
subway.
again. Say it again.
But you can't say it, right? Because, oh my God, that's racist. Oh my God, that's bigot. What about the psychos in white last night? They didn't give a crap either.
I love when Lisa starts talking common sense.
I mean, it's so amazing to me what people do, right? And they come out and they make all this noise, and then when it's really important or when it's really critical, they are MIA. Not only don't they have anything to say, but you can't even see them.
But Lisa had such a powerful point. This guy that's speaking out and starts this argument that I'm totally live feeding when we're done. He starts this altercation with the school board, and he's so against the SRO. He was the guy that was rahing about the March for Our Lives after the Parkland shooting. So how can you be that? I don't get it. Like, how can you be against school safety when the whole point was Parkland? If the security guard stood down, number one, they literally let this kid walk onto the school grounds with loaded weapons. And when he started firing, they stood down. They had security at the school. So what are you saying here? You want less security when you know we have gang members in the school beyond a shadow of a doubt, and you want to disarm people like me.
It's
stupid.
Actually, they should disarm me.
That's why I say MIA. They were all gun-ho, oh, rah, this, that, and the other. But when it's time to really have the conversation, when it's time to get into the meat and potatoes, they are MIA.
Yeah.
Because like she said,
where were you? Where were you? It happened in your school. Where you said you argued with us for months online about how school safety, when nobody was shooting up anything. Now we have a knifing, and you're silent. Nothing.
Oh, let me just mention, since you mentioned the knifing, I forgot to bring this point up. Now, we were led to believe that was just a superficial wound. And it was stated more than once, right? That's what we were all.
June Margolin reported back from the officer when she made a phone call, reported back to the entire group that it was just a superficial wound.
So how does the knife almost puncture a lung? Superficial wound. Have you heard? I mean, I'm not a doctor. And I'm not in the medical profession, but I don't think that's superficial if that's how that happened.
Yeah, no, I haven't heard much about it because the story just went away. Just stopped talking about it. There's not going to be any protests. There aren't going to be any Joshes out there standing up against gang members. They don't
care about progress. They care about showing off to going to California, going on their Facebook things so they can get grant money because they're a civic group on Facebook.
For what? They're going to put that grant money? They're going to send it to Honduras?
Oh, who knows what they're
going to give it to Xavier?
Well, maybe June's going to donate more to Alex's GoFundMe because she did make a donation to him. I don't know how that works.
That is such bull crap.
No, get the cheese behind you. I just
how many needy kids are here in Huntington?
How many
families are here in Huntington? How many?
They won't give us the numbers on how many gang members are in the school. They won't give us any of those numbers. The subject has just been dropped. And Xavier says he doesn't know Alex. Therefore, there's, and he only represented one kid and it was pro bono. No, you're only owning one kid. You're only owning that publicly because you were caught. It's
and whether it's pro bono or not, when you are on a elected board to govern and make policy and procedures for an entire district, I need for you to be unbiased. I need for you to go in there with tunnel vision, stick to the facts. When you get up there and you make a speech in the middle of a PTA board meeting, I don't care what it is, to say we need to expunge these students, okay, record, and then none of your board members look at you like you're crazy. I have a problem with that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Pro bono or not, I have a problem. That's a conflict of interest, because right then and
And
there,
these parents didn't say either.
nothing.
What's wrong with parents? They got so much to say on Facebook. They attack and attack and attack and attack. Nothing but a bunch of
And
overgrown
the
bullshit.
average salt
And
tax is $22,169 to pay for the honor of you're sending your kids to school with gang members.
yeah, where are their big mouths now? Huh? Seriously.
It's very
no problem with
upsetting.
members, huh? No problem with knives. I don't know anybody that has any gun issues in Huntington for Mr. Josh to stand up on the
You can't
podium.
have you ever tried? Maybe we should all go together and apply and record the process and the nonsense that you have to go to. And then once we finally get our guns when we're 80 something years old, then I'll show you how you can go to the gun range if these laws are still in effect, because you can't go practice with your gun because there's a new transportation law that literally says your gun, if you own one, can only sit in a safe with bullets away from it, locked up separately with a thing lock on it, and it cannot go in your car unless you're like with some sort of registered person who can transport it. They're making it impossible. So even if there's still a pathway, the pathway is impossible. That's what you're forcing people to become criminals. When they passed the New York State Act, SAFE Act, they made people upstate, millions of people became criminals the next day, including, I don't know if you remember, our own police officers, because there was a limit on the clip that you can only have up to 6 in it, and most of the other clips that the officers had were more, and they had to go back and revote to allow our police to be able to carry their guns because they didn't think it through long enough what they were doing.
That's scary.
Yeah.
I want my police officers, to be well equipped. I'm sorry. I want them to be well equipped. I don't need for bad guys to be more equipped than the officers. I don't need that.
There's nothing wrong with having an equipped citizenry either.
I think anybody who's responsible should be able to have.
And the new provisions are when you can finally get to the gun range, if you can, you have to shoot a certain score. You have to shoot a certain score. They have a test now that you can actually hit this thing this many times with less bullets. Boom, boom, boom. I'm telling you, they're passing all these laws because they have the governorship, the executive branch, they have Congress, that they have all 3 branches of government now completely under their control, and they have a voting base in New York City that we can never outvote no matter what.
We are so screwed. It's disgusting.
If we had the Electoral College in New York, to where out of the 62 counties, each county got their own block of, so whoever in each county, which is similar to what we do in states, and it's represented, your count is represented by your population, we would stand a chance. But right now, we don't.
No.
We don't.
Common sense is dead. It's I don't know what to say.
It's been dead for a long time in politics. I hate to say that.
And it's even worse now. It's even more dead now. Not even a trace of it anymore.
You never know, it's just, you get so frustrated. You don't even want to turn on the TV. You don't want to read anything. You don't want to go on the internet. You don't want to have a discussion. I've seen people that I've known for a very long time just come irate when we start talking about common sense issues. And I'm like, what's wrong with you? Why can't we just have a regular conversation even if we don't agree? New York is no longer the move. many people are trying to leave. Right.
I was incredibly proud to be an American last night. I was incredibly proud of everything that came out of our president's mouth last night. And what made me the sickest, you probably won't, was opposed it. The opposition. They didn't even sound like they were from America.
I can't believe they opposed human trafficking. That blew my mind. To actually sit there stoic. That blew my mind. Can I show you 2 quick maps and then we'll jump right on that one?
Yeah.
I just want to give you guys a visual of what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I have the Cuomo-Astorino map. Do you remember that race?
Oh, yeah.
That was a long time ago.
62 counties. This is what I'm talking about the counties. The red ones all voted for Astorino.
Oh.
The blue ones all voted for Cuomo. This was the result for the New York State election between Andrew Cuomo and Rob Astorino.
Oh my God.
Isn't that insane? So wait, this is Trump. This is Trump. Oh, sorry. I lost my other one. Sorry, I can't even go back. Oh, here it is. There it is. This is Trump in New York.
Wow.
That's what I'm talking about. If we had the Electoral College, because this was the race, the Astorino Cuomo one, that really burned my biscuits. Because if you look at where my mouse is circling here in New York City, it's so dense there that you can never outvote it. There's millions and millions of people in New York City alone.
Well, maybe those people don't feel like, Astorino had the same thought process that they thought would be good for when it comes to elections like that.
So progressively liberal with the type of people that are in New York City. No, there's a lot of people who are dependent on government. One, and there's a lot of very liberal-minded artsy people that's progressive that we attract in New York because of how it is. And then you see more of the conservative-minded folk want more property. They're more upstate than anything else. And that's why you're starting to see what's happening to Long Island in the high density housing is because we're starting to take in a lot of people who are coming from Brooklyn and Queens and New York City into Nassau and Suffolk. And because of that, they're bringing the policies that they love and changing the landscape of where we are without knowing what it was before. Because to them, they've already been citified.
You can't really, in my opinion, you can't really disagree with that type of voting then. That's the masses of the people, that's what they depend on. It'd be counterproductive for me to vote someone in that is not going to go along with what I need. Astorino wasn't coming, and when Astorino first, and I met Astorino at the Thatched Cottage. I thought he was an excellent choice for me. But here I am, a Long Islander, born and raised. I don't have the same outlook as someone in New York City. So to me, it would make sense that they vote the way that they did because he's going to give them what they want. If Astorino got in, they would be losing everything.
We send the most in Suffolk County, Long Island. We send the most revenue to New York State, and we get the least back.
That is true.
In services. And I think the number is so gross. I don't remember what it is. A while ago, back in 2010, it was 70 cents for every dollar. I can't even imagine what it is now, almost 10 years later.
It is. And when I think about the school funding that we get,
yep.
We get so much, they'll tell you, oh, New York gets this and that. They don't realize that Long Island only gets 2% of that. We don't get anything. We get basically kibbles and bits.
Yep,
That's it. That's all we get. So it's like, when it comes to those type of elections, I may not like the outcome, but those are the elections that the people actually have a voice in. We can't be upset if so-and-so got in because they were voted in. And that's what happened. Cuomo was voted in. But man, do I regret that vote. Wish I could take it back.
All right, look at what's happening too. Oh, and there was some other stuff. We're probably going to have to cover it on another one that kind of goes back to when he was trying to force us to take the state troopers, because there's a lot of people questioning why we didn't take the state troopers again. And I want to refer people back to the video that we did, because it was actually interesting that nobody at the school level knew that they wanted to force these state troopers on us until a few hours before he made his announcement. So the main reason our school turned it down is because they had completely violated trust, number one, but the whole process. They had left out the schools in the process, and they singled out certain schools for gang activity. And we never understood, like, there was no rhyme and no reason as to why. That was a really great episode. It's the one that has the state trooper car on it that we did. I think it was August 17th, 2017. If you can believe we've been on the air that long, for free. We do this for free for you people. We don't even monetize our videos. We're crazy like that. But yeah, I think I probably nailed that one. If you go and you look through, I try to, whenever we set up our shows, I try to put a relevant thumb photo of what we're discussing to make it easier when you're going through our library of videos to get caught up on where we've been before. Because it is a library of information that you could easily take off the shelf at any time, pick a subject on, and get caught up.
Now, let me just play this, let me just say this. I know that the state troopers were supposed to come in, right?
Yeah.
And it only selected certain schools that had gang activity. And that was how long ago?
Well, Chad Lupinacci was an assembly member at the time, and he was involved in the discussion. I know that Tracy Edwards, who's no longer with us on the town board, was part of the last-minute press release that was put together by Governor Cuomo. And I know this because I reviewed our video.
But how did they get the information of what schools have what gangs? I'm just trying to bring it all together.
Good point. If they have the information, why can't we have the information so we know what we're really dealing with here? How did they make the determination? Just great point, Dina.
Yeah, who
love when you use common sense like Lisa did.
It's you got to think about these things, and it's like, what was the criterion? How did you come up with that data? Because I assure you, I know that Huntington is not the only school district that has gangs. Let's be real. Well, so how did you come up with that?
Didn't they already say that on June's Q&A?
What did they
say? They said every school has gang members in it, in the town of Huntington.
I mean, it does not rocket science. Like, how you gonna know who's a gang member, who's not?
McFly, hello.
I mean, we changed the transgender locker room and bathroom laws for a handful of students in each school district. But what are we doing about the gang problem?
We're hiding it because it doesn't exist.
I mean, you're doing this for 0.03% of whatever population. You're making a law. What are you doing in regards to our children being, besides trying to circumvent the whole process of notifying the school board, having them take a vote, and what are you doing? It's actually substantial.
Nothing.
What do you? Oh my God!
That's safe to say, right? Right. Nothing. A big fat nothing burger.
Giving away the farm, fighting more of the problem here.
And my thing is, if you can start teaching my child about sex education in the 6th grade or in the 5th grade, where they have to watch these videos of somebody touching someone inappropriately, why on earth wouldn't you educate them on gang violence just so that they could be aware?
Mm-hmm.
Why? That part I don't get.
Great question.
You want to accept the overly sexual tone in the atmosphere these days, but you don't want to address the realistic issues about gangs?
No, because that's racist.
I don't know. I mean,
I would like bigot. It's being a bigot. You're supposed
to have. No, you know what they are passing in our neighboring school. What they are passing is, I'm not even going to do the screen share. New Jersey passed a law that they're changing their curriculum to teach the transgender and LGBTQ history in the schools. Because we need to put everybody in the tiniest boxes we can find instead of focusing on human beings through history and how it changed or anything else. This is such a culture war we're facing right now. And it is in our schools. I don't know.
Who's going to teach this? Caitlyn Jenner? We're going to go back to the Olympics?
And how do you put transgenders in these things before you put African Americans? What in the world? Where is Carmen Sandiego? Please, somebody point him to me. I don't know.
She just jumped over the wall. She's in your school.
I don't understand. You want me to be sympathetic and, boo-hoo over transgenders, and this is nothing against them. I don't have a way either.
Meanwhile, they're doing nothing about DACA. We got kids here who've been here their whole lives. Their whole lives.
Understand.
They could be deported. But they're not doing anything about the immigration laws. And these kids, think about it. It's like throwing Blake over the wall.
I don't understand it. I really don't understand it. And I don't think, how do they expect the American public to feel about that? I don't understand. I'm sorry.
I don't care that you're gay. I don't care if you're trans, you're bi, you're
none of my business.
You're liquid. I don't care. I don't care what I don't care about any of that. I don't care. But for God's sakes, Trump gets elected president and it all has to be shoved down my throat, up my wahoo. I mean, come on. What the hell is going on? It's insane. Our kids now can't pick their gender. It's wrong.
Cory Booker was questioning one of Trump's nominees for one of the judicial appointments. Mm-hmm. And his question to her was whether she had ever employed any LGBTQ people on her staff as a judge. And her answer to him was, well, I've never been a judge, so I haven't had any law clerks. However, the people who have worked for me, it's none of my business about their sexual orientation or what they do. And that has nothing to do with whether I hire them or not. And that's exactly how it should be. I should be hired.
Is that part of the job application now? You sit down for an interview.
And I need to know your sex-wise.
And you need to hire me. Bullshit. What are your qualifications?
Right. I don't need to know your sex life. I need to know whether you're applying for a job at an auto mechanic. I need to know if you've ever worked on a damn car. I don't need to know if you've ever worked on somebody of your own gender.
Exactly.
For me, I need for you to acknowledge my basic human rights as being a naturalized citizen before you try to make me understand the rights of someone who is transgender or liquid or anything. Because unlike I can't wake up tomorrow and say, oh, I don't want to be black. Oh, today I can't do that. A transgender was once one gender, and now they're not comfortable or they identify with another gender and they're able to change that. I cannot do that. I don't think you could do that either. I need you to address that issue first. Start treating, your natural born citizens like citizens. And then maybe I can take into consideration worrying about what someone transgender feels. Because until you do that, then there's nothing you and I could talk about, because that's, my people basically built America.
I think
I want to talk about that.
Less concerned about that issue and not yours, the transgender one, than the issue of nobody recognizing that our Black population is going away. Our Black population is slowly, and the laws that are being made are going to make it hasten. I see it. And it scares me because I ran the numbers just because I got worried about the demographics in my school and how it had increased so much within a certain population, that I saw that the Black population in New York State had lost a percentage. And when you only when you only represent 9%, you go from 8%. It's a lot. It's a lot.
A lot of blacks are moving. You know, for those who
It's not
they're
moving.
leaving. They're
It's not
leaving.
moving. It's not moving.
They're not staying here. Go through your numbers and have
Black
follow.
abortions outnumber black
Listen,
folks. I know.
That's your choice. If you're black and you chose to go have an abortion, that's on you.
I know.
You disseminating the race.
I know.
We can't put that in there.
But now there's now laws and policies being put in place to help hasten that when that's already out of control. When you look at demographics, that shouldn't be the highest demographic when it's represented at the lowest number.
Again, that's still your choice. You choose to go have an abortion.
I know, it kills me, Dana.
You know, that to me, I don't find any, you know, if you choose to have an abortion,
but if
you're diminishing your race.
But if you truly embrace diversity, you don't embrace it shrinking. You recognize that it is, and you start creating policies to help build families in that demographic, to help nurture growth in that demographic.
Not if you don't care about that demographic.
Clearly, that's what's happening. Margaret Sanger is just from hell.
I mean,
from hell, cheering this on.
Let's be real. The black population has never been, since after slavery, has never been that significant. Sorry. That's the reality. So who's going to get up and say anything? I think
public opinion in that regard has changed a lot. I think as far as lawmakers go, I think that the Democrats really need to start to realize that the black Democrats especially, or the black people who vote Democrat, really need to see how they've been used. They've really been used as
That's another thing. You don't know your history, you know. When I have conversations, the Democrats are not, you know, all fun and games. They have a lot of crap with them.
This is why I totally respect and understand why you are a black Republican, Dana. I always have, because the policies are so much, I mean, they like to point fingers and point out, and there are racists within the Republican Party. Don't get me wrong. Absolutely. There's racists within the Democrat Party, and there's people that are racist against white people at this point and want to eradicate them. So
the only difference is that the Republican Party is upfront and honest with their racism, and the Democratic Party plays it in the behind closed doors. So I mean, you know, they both have. Neither party is for the African American.
But the policies in regards to strong families that the Republicans represent, more so the conservatives than the Republicans, I think, at this point, because the parties have taken such a large shift.
Right.
I think that the pro-family thing is what's really missing. Because if we're seeing a demographical shift, that's what we need to nurture, is the births of more whole and wholesome cisgender black female black males coming together and having a lot of black babies. It's in families where the fathers are there. There needs to be policies that help build that portion of our demographic. Otherwise, America's going to have a huge stain of not only slavery, but eventually eradicating blacks off the planet.
I don't think that's, I don't think that's anyone's concern at this point in time. I mean, look at when the welfare system came in and started making the black families
promoting fatherless families. They promoted,
and that was under FYI that was done under the Democratic rule. So so I mean, it's not like they're not trying to fix what they.
When we were in trouble a few years ago, when we were in financial just waste at that point, I had said, okay, fine, I'm going to go down and see if maybe we can get some help, maybe some Medicaid, because everything was out of control. And the first thing they told me is that I would have to divorce my husband.
What type of
I would have to get, because it don't even bother to qualify unless you meet these parameters. You'd have to sell one of your family cars, because we had two. I would have to get rid of my life insurance policy. And she was like telling me how to cheat the system, that if I divorced my husband, I could rent from him and qualify for a Section 8 voucher, but I had to find a way to get rid of his income to prove that I qualified for all these freebies. Yeah, she walked me out all around how to skirt the system. But my marriage meant more to me than being able to finally take something out of the system that I had paid into my whole life.
I think so. I mean, you did marry him, so I think he was of some importance.
Well, yeah, it's not a meal ticket. Oh no, you're just a way that if I get rid of you, and then I can get food stamps, and ooh, I'll move back in with you, and I'll rent, and you'll be my landlord, and I'll give you government money vouchers because I'm renting half your bed now.
That's the dumbest thing I heard in a very long.
But this is what's happening.
I know.
Yeah,
I'm going through it now myself. With the tuition, I gotta prove. Come here at 4:00 in the morning when everybody's asleep, and I'm the only one up getting everybody ready for school.
Thank you. I can't tell you the late nights or the early mornings. The early mornings not so much anymore because of the late nights. I have to do the work for our show, but at the same time I'm doing deep dive on federal stuff because I can't trust the news.
No.
So I got to find and you post one bad thing and boy they nail you to the wall. Like today I posted a Photoshop thing and I didn't realize it was Photoshopped until after, but I decided to leave it up because, and I put a disclaimer on it, I'm leaving this up so people know that it's Photoshopped. So, but you have to verify everything today. See, Dana, see how I avoided that controversy just now?
Thank God. Because I was like, gotta go.
That's how much I love you. Okay, ladies. Guess what time it is?
About that time.
Wow, it is.
It is. It's that time.
Oh.
But we will be back next Wednesday.
We will.
So we hope everyone enjoyed tonight's Huntington View. Have a good evening, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.